Yes, my microphone is working on the first try. Sorry, I got an old laptop. Sometimes the features, I have to restart my computer and then try again. But hey, it has been a while, guys. Hello, it's Tuesday, June 16th, 2026. I'm glad to be making a video. It's been a while. I've been really focused on automizing a lot of my steps. I had coded with the help of Gemini, coded a few things and just got addicted. And I was like, well, maybe it can do this, maybe it could do that. And I just continued to progress. And then next thing you know, a lot of the things, most of the things that I do manually when I conduct my analysis has now been automated. So it's still, I believe it's still a work in progress. It's very, very new, but so far I'm very pleased um, with how it looks and how it's performing. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right. Sorry that I have not posted a video in a long time. I've been working on my analysis process and was able to automate and improve most of it. This has saved me a tremendous amount of time. However, I still need to review the code and ensure everything is functioning properly, which has required a great deal of concentration. The results, though, have been phenomenal. Many of the steps that I've previously performed manually are now completed autonomously and formatted exactly the way I want them. As a result, I can spend the time I've saved running simulation. I can spend the time I've saved running simulations, collecting more data, and feeding that data back into my system. The cash reward I earned from NinjaTrader competition grew significantly over time. After building the account, I withdrew most of the profits, leaving only enough capital for a final trade. Unfortunately, the trade resulted in a loss. At that point, I decided to withdraw the remaining funds and transition to an Aqua Futures eval account. Overall, I was pleased with the outcome because I was able to grow the initial reward, secure a withdrawal, and use the experience as a stepping stone to continue pursuing my trading goals. Yeah, that was very unique. Like I participated in the Ninja Trader competition. I was able to win $100 cash prize. I took that $100, put it into my Tradeovate Live account, grew it to almost $400. Um, Withdrew half of that money to give some to my significant other. So this is when I was kind of like automating some of the process, not everything. So I was feeling very confident that I could, take $100 again and just continue. But it resulted, I did wind up having a loss that day. And I said, rather than trying to trade with, $60, um, which doesn't give you much room for a drawdown, I decided to take that money and then put it into a prop firm account, into a prop firm eval. Now, I've never won a payout with a prop firm eval, so it's not like, I could have just kept the $60 in my bank account, and just maybe just figured out, how I was gonna get more cash, because it's not like the prop firm space was promising to me. I have not earned a payout through the prop firm. I can pay myself with my live account, but when it comes to these evals and then getting to the funded stage, it's been extremely difficult to secure any type of payout. And I believe that it's not in the best interest of these prop firms to give people payouts. So there is a little bit psychology and science behind it. These businesses, whether it's, applying a 30-day time, they say on the front end, there's no time limit. But when you dig deeper through the facts, through the terms and conditions, through the Discord, you realize that there's a 30-day expiration date. That's pressure. Um, all the um, metrics that need to be completed. You can't lose $1,000. You got to have 5 days with a certain profit target, of $100, $120. When you're trading your own account, a simple $18 win is $18. You know, and it's not like it doesn't count or it's too small or maybe you're getting flagged for whatever the BS is. Like $18 win is an $18 win in a live account, and then if you win again the next day, maybe it's only $18, but you have $36 now. You do that, so it's like all those little small gains add up. But in the prop firm space, mentally it could mean nothing, because one, it's not enough to consider to be a profitable day. Two, you're not. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not an immediate reward because not like you can withdraw it or anything like that, or it's not like it's cash or anything. You gotta wait until you hit the 6% profit target or whatever. So a lot of things in the prop firm business is drawn out, and I really want to emphasize business because these prop firms are a business at the end of the day. We're the ones that are, maybe it's because of the YouTube influencers, or we listen to streams and we see like, oh, this person, I just had my second payout today. I'm like, how are these people getting these payouts? Like I remember I used to watch My Funded Futures live stream. And after the first show, the second show would be with this guy called Pine Tree, whatever his name is. And he was always, just securing payouts. Oh, I got, I'm getting ready to submit my payout request, I'm like, how is he doing this? And then it just seems so backwards. Like the things that these owners of the prop firm space of their business talk about, like we don't want people, trying to figure out a loophole in the system. We don't want people just gambling. We don't want people to just be, just doing like random stuff. We want to have consistent, profitable traders. Like this Pine Tree guy was the exact opposite. He was just like, I don't care if I spend $2,000 a month or whatever, like on these evals, like I am shooting for the moon each and every trade. I like to use the minis. Like I'm trying to really just like go all out. Like it just seemed like totally adverse into like what these owners of the prop firm space would talk about. But he was getting payouts. Supposedly he was getting payouts. But I think like at the end, like I believe that he sat back and realized that, I'm spending a lot of money on these evals. Yeah, I'm securing some payouts and stuff like that, but I'm also spending a lot of money on evals because I heard from other people, like when you could just buy an eval for credit card, it just makes it so easy to just purchase another eval, purchase another eval, purchase another eval. Like this space can be very addicting and you can never really reach, I don't want to say potential, but some people never reach that reward, because it's a business. If I'm a business owner of a prop firm, like, yeah, like I may have on a mask and be like, oh, we're looking for consistent, profitable traders. We're looking for that trader that we could put in the live account. We're looking to add them to our desk. And I can say all that on the internet. But in the back office, with the accountant, I'm looking at, how many people I got to pay out, who's actually earning money, how many people that we have to pay, because at the end of the day, and I'm just gonna and this is just my personal opinion, at the end of the day, I believe prop firms don't like paying people. They don't like paying people, and I'm gonna compare this to something. I'm gonna compare it to when I was an Uber driver, right? And when I used to work for Uber, when I used to Uber drive for 5 years, this is almost 5 something years ago, and you know I would hear I heard the company say that we don't like paying our driver. We don't like paying our drivers. And to me, like I was a little bit like taken back by it. I was like, why do they don't want to pay the drivers? Like the drivers got to supply their own car. They got to supply their own maintenance, their own gas. We got to have good customer service. We got to back then used to offer water and stuff. We try to go above and beyond to have a great rating to do all this. And then you want to you want to tell your shareholders that you don't like paying the drivers. That we're gonna use robot taxis because we don't want to pay the drivers. And I thought that was like so messed up. I was just like, why not protect your backbone? Like the drivers are your backbone. Like I remember the founder of the company. Like when this Uber thing emerged, like it was it was awesome. There was much lower commissions than what it is today, and I don't know what it is today, but it was much lower commissions. Like after a certain amount of trips you completed, they say, hey, for every additional trip you have, we're gonna give you a bonus. So that just encouraged me to drive even more. I'm like, damn, now I get a little bonus. Like you could like make, you could make something. It was very cool. Um, Generous at the time. But I don't know like what happened. I think because people started quitting their jobs to do Uber, like engineers are leaving their jobs to do Uber. Like you started hearing these stories. And I think like the shareholders got mad and said like, hell no, we don't want these people to make money. Like that's insane. They kicked out the fucking CEO. They put in some fucking hard-nosed guy, some typical corporate, CEO that was just like, we're increasing the commissions, we're doing away with the bonuses, and we don't fucking care about the drivers. Excuse my language. We're gonna figure out how we could take advantage of the drivers. And I saw it because each year I felt like I was driving the same amount of miles and time and spending the same amount of energy, if not a little bit more, but making like half of what I made before. And then COVID happened, and then I transitioned to doing the Uber Eats, and that was just a mess. You really made a fraction of what you were making. So I said, I completely burned out. Now I share this stories because it's easy. If they can do that, if Uber can say we don't want to pay our drivers, what makes you think that these goddamn prop firms want to pay people? Yeah, they may put on a mask on YouTube and be like, oh, we paid out close to $1 billion. But I believe deep down inside, they're trying to figure out a way where they can pay people less. Whether it's an added rule, whatever it may be. Reducing the payout amount. Adding little, it could be something little. Maybe they say, okay, a profitable day, instead of being $90 or $50, it has to be $100. Then later it has to be $120. Then later it has to be $200. Oh, we don't, or, you got to have, whatever the case may be. It's just with these prop firms, it's just a list of rules. Kind of get ridiculous. But then you realize that these rules, some of it, it kind of makes you be super conservative and very strict, like risk management and stuff like that, because there's so many fucking rules. You have no choice but to have some risk management, and you can like learn from that, I guess. But really, it's designed so it could just put a lot of obstacles in front of you, make it difficult to reach that end goal. Because if you're paying, and I think about it this way, if you're paying 80, say 80, 90, $50, $90, $100 for the lowest tier 25K evaluation, and you're able to receive $700, $1,000, $1,500 in return, you know, that's a damn good ROI. Everybody would do it, you know? Like if I could pay $50 to make $750, that's a damn good ROI. And if I have a business where I am promising people that if they give me $50, in return I give them $750, you think that I'm going to make it easy for them to reach $750 to get it to that payout? Even if it's the minimum, or $250 the minimum? Hell no. Heck no. So I keep that in the back of my mind, but we all think it's possible. But it's really difficult. Very, very, very difficult. I was talking to myself and I was saying to myself, I said, the way that you could beat these companies is to keep your account active as long as possible. Now, the 30-day expiration is, you don't have no choice. You either pass or you don't pass. But Aqua Futures says that they don't have a time limit, only an inactivity time limit. If you don't trade within 7 days or whatever, then they call it a breach or whatever. But my goal is just to keep that damn count as long as possible, especially if you get to the funded part. Because the expiration time limit just drops. I think those who are on the funded part, keep that keep that funded account as long as you can. As long as you can. Let them continue to pay for the data on that account. Maybe you're only making $18, a trade or whatever. Doesn't matter. Keep that shit active. Keep it active. It may take you, to have the account 1 year, 2 years. Stop churning these damn accounts, and because it's not beneficial to you. I think the only advantage that you can have is keeping the account as long as humanly possible. Make that $50, $90, make it last. Make it last. Don't spin through it and then purchase another eval, don't do that. Make that $50 go far. Make it last a few months. And I feel like that is the easiest way to have the upper hand. When we start to over leverage, I know we got bills to pay. I know we got money to give to our significant others. I know that we want money now. I know that we had a profitable day and we were imagining that, wow, if I could do this, then I could be past the eval and I could be in the funded and I could breeze through the funded and get to my payout. I know that, but I'm talking to myself here, but I've been doing this. I've been in these prop firm spaces and I have not received a payout yet. And the best thing that I could do for myself is to take my damn time. If it's one MES contract, if it doesn't hit the 100-day mark, If it doesn't hit the 120-day mark, so be it. So be it. That's fine. I'm still testing out my automated system anyway. Testing out the programming anyway. You know? And once I get in a rhythm with that, then I could add on, and some size. But the even if your profitable day is under $120, doesn't mean that it doesn't count. Doesn't mean it's not. It still gets added onto the balance. Or maybe even build a buffer for yourself, so that when you do shoot for that profitable day, you got a little, you got some cushion there. Don't be tempted. What I'm trying to say is, don't be tempted to put on such a huge size. I hear that from everyone that I've listened to that put shows on YouTube about futures trading. They're putting on too much size. They feel confident because maybe yesterday they had a good trade, or maybe they had a loss. So automatically they want to make back the loss. And we talked about this, about the compounding losses. I stressed that so many times. And I'm glad to say that because we were looking at the calendar on my Aqua Futures account, I had a loss yesterday. $166. But you know what? I didn't go back and try to make up for it. What I did is that I started looking at the situation. I started looking at things in hindsight. What happened? What went wrong? What was it? Can I figure this out? What did I do? Without having to go back into the market and feel tempted to make up for the loss, which only compounds my losses. Remember? I mean, I have a bunch of calendars from My Funded Futures, all that. And we would see $800 losses, $400 losses, $500. We're like, what the hell? Because I would try to go back in and compound the loss. Maybe I'll go back in thinking that my thesis was still going to play out. It just needed a little bit more drawdown room. It's going to reverse. And it kept on going in that direction. Or maybe I try to catch, maybe I went in the opposite direction. I mean, maybe I try to go with the trend. If I was selling, if I had a bearish bias at the open and markets were pushing higher, it stopped me out and it never reversed, maybe I'll jump back in to go long. But then, things start wicking, things start retracing, and you already suffered one loss. So you really don't have either patience or stop loss margin or whatever, you don't want two losses. So now you're in and out. You're getting nervous. It starts to retrace. You jump out. It goes up again. You jump back in. All those things just compounded my losses. But yesterday, I said, that's it. I took my loss and I was able to do some research and figure out what might have went wrong. And I felt good about that. And at least my 25K account is still above 25K. Now, I don't know if it's going to dampen, it still says my drawdown is 1,000 and something, but I don't know if that's true. But at least my balance is still above 25K by $37. We're still in the game. I looked back and I said, it's not that my strategy is bad. It's that my losses were just too damn big. If I had shaved off a half of my losses, like if I was able to take, instead of having 800, it would be 400, whatever, I would have been past the evaluation. I would have made it through. Because my win rate is pretty good. Usually I have 4 losses out of the month, but those 4 losses were very big. And so I think I'm finally starting to get that ingrained in me because I hated looking at my calendar and just seeing like the reason why I'm not really making it to the next level is that my losers are huge, and I gotta stop doing that. Once you get sick and tired, you get sick and tired. Um, so yeah, let's. So this is with Aqua Futures. I don't know if is Memorial Day coming up. I know Juneteenth is coming up. Look, I don't know the reputation of Aqua Futures. I saw it was only $50 compared to I was thinking about trade day. My Funded Futures went up on their prices for their 25K account, 72 something dollars, whatever. I said, nah, I don't have enough for that. I was thinking about trade day. Trade day was in my budget, but when I was trying to pay for it, it just didn't want to accept my debit card. I was like, damn, I don't know what's going on. So then I thought Aqua Futures was only $50, but I don't know the reputation of Aqua Futures. At least I know that they're part of the Tradeovate prop. If you go into Google and you type in Tradeovate prop, they have a bunch of firms that's associated with Tradeovate. So I said, well, if you're going to have that, if you're gonna have that banner, if you're gonna have that brand in your product, then maybe there's some credibility. Has to be some credibility there. So I said, okay, I'll try Aqua Futures. I'll try it. And most of these, prop firm, they all have these unique like little stats, where they log your trade in a calendar and stuff like that. Like it's actually really cool. So when I started, I did well. I started my first trade on Aqua Futures account was last week on Thursday. It was a simple $100 trade. Friday did it again, and then yesterday, like I said, I had a loss, but I didn't panic. I said, you know what? Obviously, there's something that I did wrong. I'm gonna take the L, even though it's hard, hard to take an L. But I took the L, and I said, you know what? I'm going to, try to figure out what I did wrong, which I do with all my losses. I always try to figure out what happened. But sometimes I do it after the fact. After I done compounded the loss for like 400, in deficit 400, $800, I'm like, oh, I'm trying to look. I'm like, no, just take the loss. At least it's a small, loss. And hopefully you can find out the situation and be ready for the next day. So this is where we're at. So we'll see how things go. And like I said, I have no clue about the reputation of Aqua Futures, but I've noticed that most prop firms have been increasing their prices. For many firms, the lowest tier is 25K. Evaluation now starts anywhere from $60 to $90. Some prop firms, such as Apex, offer significantly lower evaluation fees. However, if you pass the evaluation, they become some of the most expensive firms when it comes to activating a funded account. For $50, I purchased a 25K evaluation account with no 30-day expiration limit and an end of day trailing drawdown. If I ever reach the payout stage, the payouts appear to be lower than those offered by some competitors and may take longer to be approved. Likewise, if you pass the evaluation, the transition to a funded account may also take longer to be approved. This company is based in Dubai. Most of the information I've gathered about the firm came from discussions on the Discord. So yeah, I asked in the Discord, is there really a time limit? Because sometimes they say no time limit, but there's a 30-day expiration. To me, that sounds like a time limit. But they said no. Aqua Futures, you don't have a 30-day expiration or anything like that. You can have the account as long as you can be in the evaluation phase as long as you need to be. It's just there is an inactivity clause in there. Like if you don't place a trade within 7 days or whatever, then they'll breach your account is determined as breach. So that is really cool. Um, like I said, the payouts seem to be lower than most of its competitors. I think the cap for 25K is $750 or something like that. Um, which to me, like I haven't reached the payout, so that the payout to me is not the most important part in these prop firms because it's not like I've reached the payout in the prop firm space. Maybe for some of you guys who've gotten payouts and stuff, you're probably looking at that. I completely agree. I understand that. But if I haven't reached the payout, to me is like the 30-day expiration. Is there a time limit? Like is it end of day or intraday? Drawdown. Um, and more of like the evaluation metrics for me. You know, and the price as well. Like I said, my funded futures, the price increased. A lot of these in prices, you can't really find too many prop firms that offer $50 eval anymore. And then on top of that, they all got this new tier called the 25K, and it's only going to get lower, right? It's only going to be like 15K or earn five, with a drawdown, max drawdown of $500. Like it just the tiers keep getting lower and lower, 25K but they're more expensive. So I tell you, this space is you just watch. All right. Like I said, I don't know the reputation of this firm. I'm not affiliated in any way with this firm. I don't know. I saw it on the Tradeovate prop website, prop firms, and I said, you know what? If Tradeovate is willing to put this company on their website, then I'm gonna give it a shot. The one thing that I do like about the Aqua Futures and them being part of the Tradeovate prop is that they give you access to market replay when you sign up for their eval. I noticed that with my funded futures, they were on the Tradeovate prop firm space website, but they were like, it was like pending, like Apex. Like they're not officially part of the Tradeovate prop, but they're like thinking about it. Like these are some firms that are thinking about it, whatever. But I noticed that with my funded futures, they don't give you access to market replay. They don't give you access to some of the tools within Tradeovate. Like if you want to have a daily loss limit or lock it, so like whatever you do is locked till 6 p.m. Eastern time. I think that feature's cool. A lot of prop firms don't offer it. Even Aqua Futures don't offer it to actually lock it. You could do that in your live personal account, like my live Tradeovate account. Like I that was pretty cool. Like whether I hit my TP and I don't want to feel tempted to get back in there and try to grab a little bit more. I immediately set my profit trigger and I lock it, so I can't place any more trades. It's done. If I hit my daily loss, I lock it so that even if I want to, it's not going to allow me to until 6 p.m. Eastern time. I think those features are incredible, but these prop firm spaces they don't enable them. Which I think is completely whack. I think that is so stupid. Something so small, and even the scheduled trades to planning your trades. Like in your live account, you can schedule a trade. Like say for instance, if at 3:30 I want to sell 2 MES contracts for a take profit of 32 ticks, stop loss of 65 ticks, it would do that. And it used to do that, and then all of a sudden they changed it. Like in the simulated space, these prop firms are starting to have more and more power with Tradeovate. They're starting to have more and more power with Tradeovate. Like they're starting to run the simulated space within the Tradeovate NinjaTrader platform. Like they're saying, we don't want our traders to have these protections. We don't want them to plan no trades. Or park trades. We don't want them to have no tools. Like none of that shit. Like do away with all that, which is bogus. So just be careful, man. Just be careful, because at the end of the day, these prop firms are businesses. So like I said, I haven't been posting any videos because I've been doing a lot of work automating a lot of my manual steps. I've never showed a little bit of my outlay of how I do my analysis. This is just a snapshot, screenshot, and I'm comfortable sharing this because it doesn't actually tell you exactly what I do, but you kind of get a gist. But I've been able, what you see on the left is what I do every single day. This is what I call my chart. I do this every single day. Um, and I do a lot of manual things. Like I got files. With a list of historical data. I gotta go through. I gotta first find the dates. Then I gotta go through each state and pull out its certain components and stuff like that. So it could take a couple hours depending on how many dates I have. Sometimes I can have like 40 something dates. Sometimes I can have none or I can have a few. So it just depends. But I knew that one day I would like to have it automated. Every component is so important that in the beginning I didn't trust it because like if I if I put this all in automation and it messes up a simple digit, a simple variable, anything, like it could throw everything off. So I said maybe I prefer to do this manually. But like I said, everything I do, I believe that it could have been coded out. Like everything is very manual, very repetitive. I said, yeah, there's that risk of the code, getting something wrong, but this will be perfect for automation because it's very repetitive. And so for the last couple of weeks, I've been working on it with Gemini. Just making like certain blocks, piecing together blocks. Like at first, I was thinking about, could it actually? Because I'm hearing a lot about AI agents and cloud and all that. I'm like, could it actually like, I was thinking like it could watch me do my steps and then mimic exactly what I do. Like I was thinking like wow, like I'm hearing about all this AI shit. I was like, is it really possible they could just watch me like watch my screen and see exactly what I click, what I do, and just like mimic the process? But no, for me, no, it wasn't that. And there were initially I was trying to pull live data, like if it can go into certain websites and grab that information and stuff like that, and it wasn't easy. So I had to break it down. I had to download, like download some files, archive a lot of things from sources that I use, put it in my local drive, and then run it like internally. Not, I said, I don't want it to pull any live data. The only thing that it pulls for me that's live is like because I have this master sheet that updates certain ETFs for me because my analysis is based around a core set of ETFs. After each day, I want their closing price. And I used to have to go into Yahoo Finance. I used to have like 11 or 20 something tabs open and just manually go to click on each ETF, the tab and just like write, like update the closing price every day. I was like, I'm sure this is something that could be automated. And that is something where it goes that is something where it goes like I use something like Polygon or whatever, and it goes into some certain warehouse and it pulls the information for me. That's the only thing that's live. But other than that, everything is run internally. All the files I already have, everything like so it's really cool. And then I was working on like matching it because now you have all this data, and I would have to go back through my slides and try to find the similarities, and it was just like it was very complicated. Like when you have years worth of data, like you don't want to have to manually go through each chart to find to find a match. Like that to me is crazy. I was just like, well, let me, can I build something that matches my historical setups? And that was pretty cool. So that's what you see on the right. It's me working on trying to, for it to do the matching for me. So I look at certain things. There's some important components that I look at, and it'll look at it'll look at the my history for me. Now I got to still input more charts into the historical into this matching platform, but you know, little by little I've been doing that. But so far I've been having some matches. So Just thinking about it makes me tired. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to, if you're doing a lot of repetitive things, to automate a lot of the stuff. That way I can spend more time focused on simulation, running back tests, gathering more data, feeding it back into the system, making my analysis that much more accurate. So what's today? So you see I already did today, and I'm thinking that according to my analysis that it should be a bullish day. Bullish open. I don't know about a bullish intraday, but at least for a bullish open. And I'll be targeting 53 ticks. But I hope, like I said, I had a loss yesterday, and but I was able to figure out the error, what I did wrong, and how I analyzed that. But so hopefully, running through the analysis today is spot on. So yeah, it's been fun seeing it to come together and doing it and seeing it. The output looks exactly like how I would have done it manually. I think that's really cool. So yes, if you have repetitive tasks, try to automate them. Definitely, for sure. Use Gemini. I'm not. I tell it. Do you have any questions? Like, I'll give it some instructions. So, do you have any questions? Explain to the kid. Explain. Like, yeah, I just want to make sure that it understands what I'm asking it to do. And Gemini is very smart. It catches on really well. And the programming, to me, compared to ChatGPT, is much better. Like the close matching historical setups. Like, I didn't ask for the formatting or anything like that. Like, it did that on its own. All I asked for what I wanted to do, but as far as the formatting and the editing, like, it did all that. Cleaned it all up for me, which I think is incredible. Um, so yeah, give Gemini a try, man. Other than that's it. So like I said, if my system is doing well, I believe that I'm hoping for a bullish open for about 53 ticks. Yesterday I used 2 micro MES contracts. Today I was like, I could try to make up some of the loss, like yesterday, like how I'm thinking, how we were talking about, like, what happens? You start thinking about making up some of the loss, making up for your losses. You start tacking on, more size. But I said, maybe it's a good idea just to use one MES contract. I mean, 53 ticks. Um, that's more than 10 points. That's good. At a time I was only scalping for 16 ticks, so I've definitely been increasing my TP. The return on my TPs. So one MES contract, that's fine. You know. So we'll see. But anyways, that's it. I hope that you guys have a great day. I look forward to uploading another video. That's part of my goals. Make your goals too. Write them down. That's one thing that I did yesterday. We are in the half. We're halfway through the year. Right? Whatever. I was listening to Steve Harvey. I used to listen to Steve Harvey a lot when I was back at home in California, San Diego, when I used to work as a receptionist and drive for Uber, and I was just hustling. And I was just always listening, either Brian Tracy, Steve Harvey, you name it, the motivational speakers. Um, Wesley Brown. I can't think of. Um, and I would just listen to them all the time. And recently, I listened to Steve Harvey, and I was just like, he just went back. He's like, and I know that vision boards sound so freaking corny. I know writing down goals sounds so corny, but if there's one thing that I would like to implement and start right away with my kids that they're 7 and 4 years old, is I would love to buy magazines, or like whatever that they maybe, I know, like, whatever it is that they like, whatever magazine that you like, whether it's cars or whatever, and cut out those damn pictures and put them on a disposable poster board. something that you can roll up and put in your closet someplace. But the practice of putting down, of visualizing the things that you would like, the things that you find cool and exciting, whatever it may be, everybody's different. And to put them down, I use my computer, like I try to do PowerPoints with it, like just uh, screenshotting just images and things that I like. And I stopped doing it for a while. I said, don't stop doing it. Don't stop doing it, because you're planting a seed, and you don't have to share it with anybody. That's the whole goal of it. You know, like it's not to say, hey guys, look at my vision board, because you're diluting your dreams when you do that. I came up, I think I coined that term, to dilute your dreams. Diluting your dreams is like when you go around sharing to everybody what you want to do, what you want to become. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a millionaire trader. I want to have a mansion. Like that's just diluting your dreams. It's less likely to turn out because you done watered it down too much. There's no, it's not concentrated anymore. It's like this watered down, just hearsay. Your vision board, it's like a Bible to you. We devote ourselves to reading scripture, to memorizing scripture. We can quote a passage, but we don't treat our desires, the things that we desire in this one life that we have, we don't treat them like a religion. And I think that to me is like crazy. Like you should be like meditating on your dreams and desires, praying about your dreams and desires. Like don't think that God is gonna look down upon you and say how selfish you are. Like, are you kidding me? If God is who we say He is, say it is. There's all consuming power that created it. Who cares? God, like calls you selfish because you want to have better things in life. Like that to me is crazy. Like you got to treat your goals and desires as a religion, and for you only. It's not even for your kids or your for significant other to hear. It's something special for you. I think that's why it became so corny, is because people start displaying their vision board, talking about their vision board. And 99% of the people are going to wish that you don't accomplish any things on those things on your vision board, because they say, who the hell this person thinks he or she is. It's a vision. It's a vision. What's your vision? And hold it near and dear to you. As I say, you get the posters, place it, roll it up, put it in your closet, tuck it away. That seed is still planted. It's planted mentally. It's planted in the invisible things that we cannot see, hear, taste, or smell. It's out there in the world. It's out there in the universe somewhere. It's working. I truly believe that. You don't know how you're going to achieve it. And that's another thing. All you could do is put your vision, the things that you envision for yourself. You just put it down, write it down, or find pictures that relate to your vision. But the thing is, you don't know how you're going to achieve it. You don't know. And that's not the point. That's not the point. The point is not to figure out. The point is just to give yourself hope and motivation and encouragement. Because when you vision things for yourself, better things, better life, better things for yourself, it makes you feel good. You don't have to understand how you're going to get to it. No, you don't have to understand that. It will surface for you. I guarantee you, if you meditate on it, pray on it enough, put it in front of you, write it down enough, we'll keep watering that seed, it will surface. Things will start to surface to figure out how to get you there. The things that I was putting on my vision board were grand to me. And there weren't small things. There were things that required to have a lot of money. And I didn't see myself as trading 5 years ago. I was more of the passive investor, to buy and hold stocks, to grow my 401k, to contribute to my HSA, to, you know, that's the only finance I knew. Susie Orman style. Nothing. I love Susie Orman. That was what I thought. And then I thought like maybe my path is to become a lawyer. Cause I was working in a law office and I'm seeing the partners, seeing them take trips to Ireland. I'm seeing them with Cupid cigars. I'm seeing them with new Audis. I'm seeing them with all type of stuff. I'm like, damn, maybe I got to be a lawyer. Maybe that's my way. You know, didn't think about trading at all. Next thing you know, I'm in Spain. I'm tired. I'm hustling. I'm watering my seed. I'm always doing my vision board. I'm solo, just hustling solo, but I'm just motivated by just my vision I see for myself. I said, I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I'm moving, driving, reception, doing it all. I get burned out. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. I get sick. I can't move anymore. Like I'm just drained. I get off of work from my receptionist job. Like I'm just sleeping in my car in the parking lot. Like I can't, like physically, I can't move. I'm so tired. And I'm like, this is unusual. This is not me. Like we lived near a lake, like a park, a reserve. And I could get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, drive for Uber until 7, show up to my work by 8, do a full shift, 8 hours in the office, to have a change of clothes in the car, go run around the lake, you know. Like I was a machine. I could do all that stuff and feel happy, feel motivated, and just do everything. Take a couple classes with my online courses at Southern New Hampshire University. If I can make it to the library, I do that. I bought like a little thing that clips onto my steering wheel that can formulate a little desk where I can type, where I can put on my laptop. I will pull up to the goddamn, what was it, Coffee Bean at the time? I can't remember, Starbucks or usually either Starbucks or Coffee Bean. I will pull close enough to the restaurant where I can pull their Wi-Fi, and I would just be all night just trying to crank out my online course, the work that I need to do, whether I need to participate in a discussion, complete an assignment. Like I was just cranking stuff out. I was just moving. Like you couldn't tell me nothing. Go to bed, wake up, do it all over. I was making money. I was pulling in the money. Every 2 months, I would see my significant other who lived in Spain, and I was just moving. I said, one day I know it's going to be about to be a breakthrough. All of a sudden, I get sick. All that goes out. I don't know what it is. I go to the doctor. I try to run some tests. I'm trying to diagnose myself. I'm doing all this. I'm like, doctor said your analysis, your blood work looks good. It looks fine. Everything is within range. Maybe your white blood cell count is a little bit off. We would like to run maybe a test on that. But as soon as she says you're fine, I said I'm okay. I don't need to ask my job for more time off from work because I was like, oh, I got to run to a doctor's appointment. I was a little bit scared to open up to my boss about I'm not feeling well because I was always a person on the move. I was always there. I was committed 100%. I ran the law firm. I ran that office. Yeah, the little receptionist, director of first impressions. Like I ran that place. So for me to all of a sudden have this spontaneous like health thing, like I was just taken back by it. But it didn't get better. I was trying to take multivitamins. I was trying to do all types of stuff. Taking the holistic approach, trying to just things weren't getting better. I was still very exhausted. I couldn't run around the lake anymore. I didn't have the energy to really get up in the morning to take people to the airport. Like it was just bad. I said, if I can just make it to Spain, I can recover, recoup myself. I just probably need a break. I arrived in Spain. I decided to stay in Spain. I didn't want to go back. Came back home, sold my Prius. The only asset of any worth that I had, sold it. Got some money back, not only to pay off the note, the remaining balance on the car, but got a few $1,000s to take home with me, which was really cool. I said, if I could just trade this, sell this to Carfax, whatever the place was called, and it could just be worth enough it could just pay off the remaining of the balance that I had. It'd be great. But no, I was able to take home like an extra 2,000. So it was like a couple. I was like, wow, this is cool. Um, had a little bit of unemployment insurance. I don't think I was supposed to collect that while living in Spain, but I was like, hey, I kind of saved that. But I was actually starting to use my 401k, the small money that I had deposited in my 401k, like I was just draining through a lot of stuff. Before then, I was getting the money coming in, a little bit of the unemployment check, don't last forever, and so I had my little retirement savings. So I'm okay for a little while. And then once that dries up, you know, everybody's talking about PPA loans. I didn't get no damn PPA loan, whatever S&B loan. I was just basic ass little unemployment. And when that ran out, it ran out. Then I'm tapping into my retirement, taking the penalty on that, you know. Then I'm thinking like, what can I do? What can I do? And this is at the point of AMC, Bitcoin. I mean, everybody is a trader now, an expert trader. So I'm listening to certain people. They're doing really good analysis, really good PowerPoints about certain companies. And I remember I'm using this calculator from Buy Upside that I learned from David Gardner from the Motley Fool. Really good site called Buy Upside. And I discovered a pattern in the Buy Upside, and I'm thinking that I could apply it to day trading, which is not the case. You can only apply that to long-term investing. But I'm like, ooh, maybe I could put some money in. Maybe I can make some money through trading. Blew through spent so much money. There was this company, I can't even think of the name. There was this company, and I'm sorry, I'm just going on and on. There's this company where you can buy stock certificates. That's how I figured out how to turn my credit into cash. There was a company, I forgot what it was called. You can buy these stock certificates. They're like coupons. You could say, for instance, you wanted, and it's pretty much any stock that you want. Grayscale. You could purchase, this gift certificate, $100 worth, $500 worth, whatever. You can gift it to anybody, gift it to yourself. You can redeem the gift certificate for the actual stock. So I would buy a $500, $1,000 gift card or whatever using my credit card, Grayscale. I would redeem it for Grayscale, like actually purchase the stock. And then I would try to flip it. Like like if it went, like I would try to like buy and then sell it right away. Because at that time, things were just going wild. Like you would see Grayscale go up like 10, 15, 20, who knows, in a day. And I would try to like sell it to capture the gain. And then once you sell it, the cash would be deposited into your bank account, And so, but I could never capture the gain, like, because it took a while. You only were allowed to sell at the, to sell at the end of the day. Then it would take place. Then it would sell your position the following day. Like it wasn't like instant. Like so, it always took like days to do certain tasks. So I'd be like, damn. So every time I would try to sell it, I would end up selling it at a loss. But at least I would have cash, But once you start repeating that process, you're not making any. You're selling every time you're selling at a loss. My timing was just horrible, Or I would try to like at least recoup the funds to pay off the credit card bill, And then next thing you know, I'm underwater in my credit cards. All my credit cards, I blew them up, trying to buy these stock gift card certificates, and sell them. It was just horrible. I didn't know. I'm learning trading at the same time. I'm thinking I got it because everything is just going crazy at the moment. The stock market is going crazy, and I'm sitting there, with all this debt that I accumulated from using all my credit cards. Never been a person that had bad credit or used whatever I use, I paid off every month. I'm sitting here looking at what I just did to myself over a span of a few months. Just all the debt, maybe close to, maybe a little bit longer than that. All the debt that I've just, just used all, maxed out all my credit cards. Navy Federal, USAA, American Express, you name it, man. Bank of America. I even found an old Pacific Marine Union account that I had in the military. I tried to revive that. That was only a $500 maxed out. It was so fucking bad. And I'm sitting here, and that's when my journey started. I said, I have amassed so much debt that just to me going back and getting a basic job is not going to pay this shit back. It's too much. I could either try to sit here and really figure this out so that one day it can compound and snowball and I could just wipe my slate clean, and I chose the latter. I chose to sit down and really dive in and figure out and piece things together. I didn't know it was going to take 5 years and counting. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was going to take me having horrible arguments with my significant other, being spat literally in the face at by my significant other because not having the means to provide, not having money. I was taking care of my kids, taking them to school, picking them up, doing everything else, cleaning, doing everything. But because I didn't have the money to provide, I wasn't even human. Had to deal with that. Got so bad, even got detained. Arguing so bad, you can't do that here in Spain. You can't be yelling and shit like that. The moment a woman picks up the phone and calls the police on you, they have to take you in. No matter what. No matter if you were just playing around, you say, you dialed and hung up. No matter what. If they arrive and you're there, they take you. I had to stay a night in being detained. Later, she dropped everything. She's like, I'm sorry, I didn't expect all that to happen. And But it left a mark on me. I said, damn, dude, I've never been in this position before. Ever in my life. Never been arrested. Never been, not my military history, so. But, just never had any problems. Always try to do things, try to move up the ladder the right way, go to school, get my college degree. I want to finish my college degree. Try to do everything the right way. But trying to go through this adventure of trading was, that I didn't expect that. But Steve Harvey mentioned something. They say if you envision something, but if it was revealed to you the path that you needed to take to get there, you would quit. You wouldn't pursue that. That's why sometimes we have our vision, we have the things that we desire that we want, but the path to get there is not laid out in front of us either. Because if most of us known the path, we wouldn't take it. If I see the things that when I have my vision board, I'm putting things on the wall, I'm putting things in my computer, I'm putting things in front of me, I'm meditating on it, praying on it. If it was revealed to me that, hey man, you would be in credit card debt, you would have no money for 5 years except for the money that you get from your tax return, you would have horrible arguments, you would be detained in jail, you would have horrible arguments with your significant other, you would you would just be at your lowest. I would have been like, hell no. Excuse me. The allergies. I got snot in my throat. So if that was, I would be like, no, no way. But like Drake says, you can't spell ball without L's. And when I heard that, I said, damn right. You're gonna you're gonna take some failures. Going after your vision, I mean the things that you really desire for yourself. You're gonna take some L's, some failures. I mean, it's been over 5 years, so I've gotten comfortable at being uncomfortable. I keep going. I keep going. Keep doing what I got to do. In each moment, things piece themselves together. Things will get a little bit better. You know, I created my strategy. Nobody can take that away from me, no matter where I go. That's something I invented. And you got to also look at things, you got to look at it differently. Most people look at trading as a 9 to 5. They want it to replace their 9 to 5. So they come in with a 9 to 5 mentality. When you're trading, you're an inventor. Unless you're completely copy trading someone else's strategy, you are an inventor. You are piecing together everything for yourself. How many times have inventors failed when they invent something? We all know Thomas Edison, but I guarantee you there's inventors out there that fail all the time. But failure is just more pieces of data. And when you look at it from an inventor standpoint, you see that. And I realized this the other day. I said, you know what? Because every time I failed, I felt like I learned something. Like it was like another data point. Like, oh, okay, this what this means now. And that's how I was able to come up with rules. That's how I was able to toss things that worked, kept things that didn't. Like every failure was like it was part of the program. But nowadays we look at it like as a bad thing, like, oh, I'm failing, like, okay, you're not looking at it from an inventor standpoint. You're looking at it from a 9 to 5 standpoint. And it's going to get uncomfortable because we have been brought up and raised to, when I was, growing up, I was like, it would be nice to work for Intuit, the TurboTax company, Intuit. They had a big company in San Diego. I would love to work for that company. You get good benefits, good 401k, good this, that. I would love to work for Scripps or, maybe in a hospital or government job, like all those things offer competitive 401k pay and stuff like that. Like that's all I knew growing up. I didn't know anything about inventing, creating. So of course, and then you figure the people around you, 99% of them don't know about inventing either. So they're never going to understand you. So you got opposition right away. Never going to, no matter if you sit down and you have a deep, thoughtful conversation, says, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm inventing. They're still not going to understand. They only understand the end result. Just letting you know. Anyway, I hope I didn't ramble on so much. Hope there was something that you took from this that can be useful. But I didn't expect to be here. But I believe that trading was brought to me for a reason. This can be the way that can get me to the vision that I have for myself, my vision board. Why would I have been motivated for so long to continue down this road? 5 years. When people were spitting in my face, saying that you ain't nothing, you ain't shit, you'll never earn $1 from it. You're not, go get a job, go do the. And I kept going. Anyways, that's it.